Hi, Sam. Have you ever noticed how AI writing really loves using the M dash?
I have, and what's really funny is I never used the M dash in my writing, and now that we've kind of been using ChatGPT and such to give us kind of a kickstart to write it, it's now everywhere. So it's been cool that it helped me learn how to use it, but it now makes you think that a human didn't write it because that's
Exactly.
the only time you see it used.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like the only time that I really use M dashes is when I'm writing like a journalism article. Like
Yeah.
if I'm using it in a quote, even not necessarily in the pieces that I'm writing myself, but it's usually from something someone said, and I'm trying to almost like eliminate their ums and ahs
Hmm.
because that's the transition between the main thought to the second thought. So, but I don't use it often when we're writing things like, if we're doing social media posts or anything like that. But I've definitely noticed, with clients of ours that encourage us to use AI to write captions, that it definitely uses it often. And I think that it's more because it's trying to look like it's more human. But in what space do they use the M dash so much? Is it a more academic thing or something? Because I haven't seen it as much as the way the AI produces it.
Yeah, I've seen it, as you're reading books and things, I've seen it in those instances where it's more of that thoughtful for a reason as opposed to something quick like social media posts or just people writing back and forth to friends. But I think maybe because with any AI, you have to train it. So I think it
Mm-hmm.
pulling from all the different literary resources, it uses it more. But what I found interesting is because we've been seeing it so much, I actually stumbled on Instagram to the am-.com, which is revolting against the M dash, which I love. I don't get me wrong. I appreciate how we can use ChatGPT and other AI as tools, but and I think you can agree, we're writers. So when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to writing, we still love that human aspect and our thoughts behind it.
For sure.
So the AM dash is similar to an AM dash, but it has the curves at the end. And it can only be used by humans.
I love that. I mean, I think that the creativity behind this piece of punctuation that is not
Mhm.
really a piece of punctuation, right? Because there's no keyboard shortcut to type it in.
Yeah.
They've created new fonts for you to be able to use this, and so I think that it's interesting because what font does Chat GPT usually use anyway? Is it Arial? Is it like I don't even know what font that is, but there's no way to change it. You're
Yeah.
not going into your AI application and like uploading all of your brand fonts. Like it's just supposed to be, regurgitating information at you pretty much. So I find it interesting that there are concepts out there about how to keep writing authentic.
Hmm.
I think it's an interesting way to keep it authentic. I want to know what like do you think that that is something that would catch on?
Right now, I love the idea. And the funny thing is like I said, I'm not against AI. Like I think it's a great
Mhm.
tool, but still the human part of me is like, "Oh, I love this so much. It's so satisfying to just have that kind of pushback and be like, "No, we can still do stuff and have that human aspect." Right now, I haven't seen this anywhere else. I think I happened to see a post actually from theam-.com. They have their own Instagram
Mhm.
account. I think they happen to come up on my feed because I follow a lot of graphic designers, marketers, so very much within the
Right.
sphere of the creators of this. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it anywhere else. I don't know. I think it's new this year. I don't know when this year it was created, so maybe it hasn't had that time yet. I kind of want to see it kick off. I just don't know that it's there yet because I haven't seen it kind of break into more of the mainstream across social media.
I understand why this is a digital movement. We type everything, even if we are writing things down, sometimes we're still typing up our notes to send it to others. I just, in the back of my mind, it's like peeking up, like this should be a pen and paper movement. Like it
Yeah.
should be something where people are actually picking up a pen and drawing that slight curvature at the end of the M dash so that people can really start picking it up and having it be a part of the way they write. It reminds me of like shorthand, like AI can't do shorthand, but
Yeah.
neither can our generation. I went to a conference recently and they were talking about, journalists were talking about how they used to take notes in shorthand. And
Hmm.
so it's things like that, like that used to be, it wasn't AI in the respect that it is today, but it was a way to write faster, to, come up with your ideas a little bit faster. If you can write things in a shorter amount of time, then you have more time to
Hmm.
process. So I find that quite interesting that we, to this day, are still trying to find ways to get down everything that we have to say,
Yeah.
in unique ways, in very unique ways, not just using acronyms, but like using creative designs to try and
Hmm.
share the messages that we're trying to get across.
It always comes back to design. Like I feel like humans are always looking for ways to creatively like make a point. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think this does that well. I love the idea of it being like a pen and paper movement because even
Mm-hmm.
though people are, I mean, I think kids probably in school don't even necessarily handwrite because they have ThinkPads and, Chromebooks
Yeah.
and whatever. But when you, like, if I have a thought or if I'm taking notes and just need to jot something down quick, like, I don't open something on my computer, I write it either in a notebook or I have a bad habit of writing them on index cards I have on my desk because that's the closest thing to grab. And then they're chaotic and lost all over my desk. But
Mm-hmm.
that would be an easy way. And I feel like it's more powerful when it's written, handwritten, than
Mm-hmm.
typed.
So I just threw in here, what is the AM dash? And I was like, I'm asking the AI. It's called AM dash. It's not M dash, and it's from the am-dash.com. And AI is like, this does not exist. It literally says, this appears to be a creative marketing concept rather than an established punctuation mark. And so it just has me wondering, like, how do you start that kind of movement? Like, if it's a how often are we getting new punctuation marks? Like, when
That's,
do we get to the next
yeah.
semicolon? I looked into the creator, it was launched by Coco Gun, which if you click on Coco Gun at the very bottom of the AM Dash website, it takes you to cocogun.com.au, which lets you know that they are out of Australia.
Hmm.
And they are an independent creative agency, and it looks like they do lots of fun things. Yeah.
What I think is very cool, which is, this, we do a lot of this in our work, is to show the reach. So this is a new concept, literally earlier this month, based out of Australia. If you look at their social media, I mean, they have like, I think 18 was the highest number of likes on one of the posts. And
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the people. So that's
Yeah.
crazy.
We're obviously not in Australia. We don't
Mhm.
know much about Coco Gun, but it sounds like maybe they are a known brand that people know about, and so they have like almost 2,000 followers on LinkedIn that are learning about the AM Dash and sharing it on there. So that's pretty cool. Still don't see them actually using it though.
But I also just love, like you were talking about, looking at the reactions and the comments people had. It
Mm-hmm.
does bring together like a sense of camaraderie of humans coming together and being like, yes, like I wrote that. You can tell it's human made. And even
Yep.
people who are like, AI has its uses, it's a tool. But it
Mm-hmm.
is nice to then be able to maybe use this to be like, oh, no, this is, especially for creative writing or strong
Yeah.
messaging, to show these are my actual thoughts, feelings. I think that makes it more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of cool to have a symbol to add to that and to tie it together.
I wonder if there's going to be more things like this popping up. Like, this is the first time I'm hearing of someone trying to come up with something that revolts against AI. AI is
Mhm.
supposed to be a convenience for the human race, even though quick example, had a client. We wrote captions for them. They instituted only using AI to write captions.
Mhm.
So the amount of revenue we were getting from that client significantly decreased. Now that's totally fine, but just to see that happen, that is a human job that was replaced by a robot. These are things that our parents are talking about being afraid of, or they
Yeah.
were back in the day. So I'm just interested in seeing what other things, either a creative concept or a tool to help make sure that things are written, by a human sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to know that like the next New York Times bestseller was written by AI.
Hmm.
Like, how far does it go? How many more things can we try to create to bring back the human authenticity that was once in writing that is no longer there?
People are really starting to, as they see AI be used, kind of be like, hold up a second and think about it more critically in terms of what does this mean for jobs and the workforce, and also just like quality in terms of, does it mean less if AI helps, or does it mean more if I do it all by myself? So I think it is interesting to see people not just thinking that or talking about that, but kind of making a symbol for it. I love the idea behind it. I appreciate the fact that they took the time to create something because it was that important for them to point out, like, this is something I did and this is something I wrote. Like, it was from a human and not just a prompt from AI.
Trying to do something timely too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they don't do it now, then AI is going to evolve. AI will eventually, you know, be ahead of the game before we can get there. I feel like it's probably already there. I feel like it's almost pertinent for us to come up with ideas that are not attached to the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Things that, like I said before, like a pen and paper type of initiative, Like, if that's the only way that we can still show authenticity, then we have to figure out how to do that more. As a writer at my core, though, I will always write things. I have a very hard time not writing down a to-do list every day, regardless of the fact that I have my calendar and
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of different task managers and things like that. I always feel like that's how stuff sticks in my mind the best, is if I actually write it down.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think physically writing it down is a good way to slow down, because with how AI and all those things are created to streamline and make note taking and, kickstarting ideas, brainstorming, it's designed to make them faster, which is great. Except sometimes you're like, that's too fast. I need a second
Yeah,
to think, reflect, and really process things. So I like physically writing because it kind of gives you that time to like sit down, see what you're doing, really think it through. And I mean, in its own digital way, if you can get it to type the symbol like it's actually supposed to, having to hit, the multiple keys code to
mm-hmm.
make the am dash kind of does the same thing. So I think it
Mm-hmm.
brings back the human element of pausing and like reflecting while you're writing, because we're not computers. We're not just going to spit out a
Right.
full, complete thing.
I'm interested in knowing what AI thinks about this. I want to know what AI thinks about the removal of the human from writing authentic pieces.
Should I ask ChatGPT?
I think you should. I think you should ask ChatGPT if it thinks that it itself is a hindrance or a helper. And I'm sure it's going to say, this is a yes and no question. I'm very interested to know what it says.
So I said, do you think you are a hindrance or a helper to human thought and writing?
Mhm.
And ChatGPT says, that's a thoughtful question and one I take seriously. My purpose is to, and this is in bold, support and enhance human thought in writing, not replace or diminish it. Ideally, I'm a helper, a tool you can use. to clarify your ideas, explore new directions, save time on repetitive tasks, push through writer's block, learn and apply new techniques. But I can also be, all in bold, a hindrance if used uncritically or relied on too heavily. For example, if someone lets me do all the thinking and doesn't question what I generate, it can dilute originality or lead to errors. That's important to question what it generates because I know some people who will write a prompt, have it spit it out, not read it, and then use it for whatever they're using. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you do need to read and tweak and like adjust as
Yeah.
needed. But it says, like a calculator in math or a spell checker in writing, I'm most powerful when paired with your judgment, creativity, and intent. So the real answer, I'm as helpful or harmful as how I'm used. Honestly, kind of poetic.
Very
Right?
poetic. ChatGPT is pretty well spoken across the board, I would say. I feel like it knows how to support itself and also lift up others.
Yeah.
Very honored to be in its presence sometimes. Um, I found that answer interesting because no one wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT, and tell me if I'm wrong, it goes across the internet and gathers information to create its answers, correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
So it has filtered through everything from human reviews and other articles and whatever it can get its hands on to literally say, I can be good or bad, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
Now, the computer is telling us it's a human error already. It's like this is human error. Just the question comes from human error. The
Mm-hmm.
question is there because humans cheat.
Yeah.
Because humans are like, oh, I can just use this and, la 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 la. Let me go on Reddit and tell everybody how I cheated on all of my SATs. Like, and then so it's like grabbing this information and realizing like I can definitely be used for not the best reasons, but
Mm-hmm.
I was created to be an assistant.
Yeah.
And I feel like no matter what room I'm in, I constantly have to remind people that ChatGPT is not the end all be all, that it's
Mm-hmm.
there to be a guide, to give you an outline. It almost is like not giving you a chance to think for yourself sometimes. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that there are settings to turn that off in different places.
But
Um,
also, sometimes I don't have time to sit there and figure out the settings to turn it off, which is why
I
I
got
like defaulting back to that handwriting and like forcing myself to step away from when I handwrite, it doesn't finish my sentences for me. So it lets me actually like think through fully whatever I'm doing
yeah,
and not have something jump the gun, which can be kind of stressful sometimes. Sometimes it's helpful, but then sometimes when it's like, okay, you're getting ahead of where I'm at, I need you to chill. But it's a
yeah.
computer and it doesn't respond to me saying that.
It doesn't have emotions
No. Which
unless
is,
you ask it to.
oh, yeah. It's sometimes in its responses, though, very good at
Yeah.
mimicking emotions and personalities.
I have one last interview question for the Chat GPT.
Mhm.
Um, does Chat GPT thinks that it uses the M dash much? Or more importantly, it's almost like our question, like, why are you using it so much? Are you trying to be a human? Does Chat GPT think that using the M dash makes it more human?
Great observation, and you're absolutely right to notice it. I use M dashes often because they're a versatile punctuation mark that can emphasize key ideas, create a conversational tone, replace commas, parentheses, or colons for variety, which is funny because I only see the M dash, like it doesn't really use the other variations, or improve clarity in complex sentences. It says it's not meant to make it seem more human, but because they're common in informal, natural writing, which I don't agree with. I don't see it often in natural, informal writing.
Informal writing?
They've become a stylistic norm in my responses. That said, some people feel overuse can make text feel artificial or too stylized. But you can tell it if you prefer it to use commas, semicolons, parentheses, and it'll match whatever writing tone or structure you're going for.
That's like, but you can tell me what to do. Like, I don't have to use M dashes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Did it use the M dash in either one of those responses?
It did.
Oh
it
my gosh, when did it use it?
it used it between thoughtful question, M dash, and one I take seriously. And then
Oh,
also, I'm a helper, M dash, a tool you can use too. So it used it twice
it could have been a
in that
comma.
sentence. But then if you copy it into some other, like even Google Docs or Social Pilot we use for scheduling captions, it comes up and tries to change it to commas. Like other AIs don't like it. They're like, no, that should be a comma. But ChatGPT is like, it really shouldn't though. I'm feeling the M dash vibe. So
That's
that's also
really
just
funny though.
interesting.
Some
So
AIs are like, screw this M dash.
yeah,
Like,
they're like, let's get rid of it. So the AM dash that we started at the beginning talking about, AM dash, isn't so much against AI in general, just ChatGPT, because that's the only place that I've really seen the overuse of the M dash.
yeah, I feel like it's Chat GPT that's got the M dash issues. My AI over here threw some serious shade at the am-.com. It said we cannot
Mhm.
verify the existence of this. It was just like, okay. It was just like, no. Um, but that was really cool though. I think that we might see more creative concepts like this come up
Mhm.
to identify authentic writing. I also feel like for longer written pieces, there might start to be. I've seen disclaimers about AI being used
Mhm.
to help with stories, but usually those disclaimers come at the bottom. I would love to see disclaimers at the top that say this story was not written with any AI.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be a nice little thing.
I will say, I think the am dash, it feels more poetic because it's like a subtle symbol, but I do think it's more likely for something as specific as being like, this is not AI generated to be something
Yeah.
that kicks on because it's very clear and direct. I'm sure not all of it will take off, but I do think more stuff like this is going to pop up just as we see AI continually change. And I mean, Boon Logic is all about authenticity. So as long as what you're creating keeps that as like a core value,
Mm.
I think that's what's most important. So we'll
I
see.
think so too.
We'll see what people do. I'm interested to see other people's thoughts. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye out and see if this takes off, how people comment.